Hello, everyone. Hi. Sorry, let me just check. Yeah, it's recording. Okay. Hi. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I'm I'm so happy to be here again, and thank you for Stephen. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to worship lead. Honestly, I get a lot more excited when I get to worship lead than to share a word actually, because I love to worship, and yeah, I just love it. It just, yeah, it really comforts me in a very, very intimate, deep way, right? So today I want to talk about broken but whole. Hi everyone, sorry I forgot to say hi to you too. Yeah, broken but whole. So it's very funny, right? Broken but whole. So in Second Corinthians, it reads as this: Each time he said, "My grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness." So now I am glad to I'm glad to boast about my weaknesses so that the power of Christ can work through me. That's why I take pleasure in my weakness and in the insults, hardships and persecution and troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So today the title of the message again, it's being broken but whole. So what do I mean? What do I mean by being broken but whole? You know, there's so many times that we use this phrase in our life, right? Like, I don't feel good. You know, I feel really bad. You know, I feel really depressed. I don't think I can do that. Or rather, I don't have it within me to do this. And, you know, it is impossible for me to accomplish that. You know, so many times we feel like that. And you know, these are expressions that we feel, you know, to you know, to when we realize that we are incapable of doing something. We are incapable. Sometimes it has to do with issues in our lives. Sometimes it has to do with, you know, our relationships with people. Sometimes it has to do with situations that often makes our life a lot more harder. And in those moments, you know, we always express these feelings because we feel we are not capable to accomplish some things in life. So, and the thing is, most of the time when we feel that way, when we feel that we don't, you know, we don't feel good, we feel depressed or we feel worn out, tired, you know, sometimes we just give up. You know, it is always connected to either an emotional state within ourselves. Maybe we don't feel emotionally well. We don't feel emotionally strong. And you know, there are times where we feel we are emotionally weak. Or the other scenario is when it affects our physical state. You know, sometimes physically we don't feel good, or physically we don't feel strong. So what I'm trying to say is this: there are times that we don't have the strength to go forward in life. I mean, that is what I'm trying to say. So this whole thing is this: how can we go forward in life even though we are not strong? Or the thing is, can we even go forward in our life? Is it really important for us to feel good, for us to feel strong, for us to feel happy? I remember once when I was younger, when I just accepted Christ. I was about 19 years old, and I had a moment. I mean, I had a tough situation that I was in, and it kind of really, really broke me. And at that time, I felt that, you know, I was going through depression. There were times that I wanted to kill myself, and I even tried. You know, I really got drunk, really got high on drugs, and you know, I went to the top of the building. But the thing is, when I saw the height, you know, like, you know, everything was vanished. You know, I became sober, and my heights became low, and, you know, it freaked me out because I'm afraid of heights. If you all don't know, you know, and I'm really afraid to go on roller coasters. If you all don't know, yeah. So, you know, I remember once, you know, when I went to the Universal Studios for the first time, and there was like a big hype, right? Because at the time it just opened and they have the big roller coaster and everything. So I went with someone. Someone actually surprised me. It was actually my pre-enlistment present from someone at that time. So the person actually surprised me and she brought me to USS as a surprise, which I didn't want to go, honestly. So I just because it was a surprise, I was nice and I went. So so my friend's idea was, let's go and do the roller coaster first. And I said, no, let's not do the roller coaster first. Let's do it last, so that we can enjoy everything and save the best for the last, because I was really freaked out. So I wanted some time to prepare and to go on the roller coaster. So yeah, to cut the long story short, by the time we finished most of the rides, it was really crowded that day. By the time it started raining and the roller coaster was closed, so I never got to go on the roller coaster. Yeah, but anyways, I'm scared of heights. I'm really, really afraid of heights. So yeah, so when I wanted to commit suicide and everything, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to deal with what I was dealing, or rather, I didn't know who to speak to. So I went to church and I spoke to one of my elders at that time, and I told them I have thoughts, suicidal thoughts. I feel like I want to die sometimes, and I don't know how to deal with it. And immediately what they did was, they started like doing deliverance prayer on me. They said that I had the spirit of depression and I'm believing in a lie, and it has taken over my life and it has power over my life. Therefore, I need to be delivered. And I was a little bit like confused, but whatever. Yeah. So they did for me, and I don't know, I kind of deal with it a little bit, but then later on it resurfaced in my life again. But the thing is this, and the question is this, though. And the truth is this: depression is a lie. I also believe so. I believe that it has no power on us. I believe that, it has no power. It's just a word. I believe in the feeling. I believe that people go through and they feel what they go through. But in order to put yourself under, to classify yourself under that label of depression, I believe it's a lie, and I don't believe in it. But what about the feelings that people go through when life gets hard, or when they feel really broken, especially when they feel really broken? And the thing is, at that point when I was young, I wondered, because they made me feel like I was sinning when I felt such things. So whenever I would feel such things, I feel like I'm sinning against God. And that was how I felt. And that was how, in a way, it was like taught to me when I was young, right? So the thing is, is it wrong to feel such things? Is it wrong to be sad? Is it wrong? Is it a sin to feel really, really broken? Is it a sin to feel extreme sadness in our lives? Or the thing is, are even these feelings real? Or like what people say, these feelings are a lie, so you shouldn't give into it. So how do you deal with it? So, many times, there's so many people who would pay to go and speak to people to talk about their feelings. But the thing is, how do you deal with it? Is it real or not? And the interesting thing today, before, when I was preparing for this message, I realized one thing. The interesting thing is this: when we look in the Bible, and we look at all the heroes of our faith, all the heroes that we learn and we study from, many of them felt these feelings. Many of them were really, really messed up within their emotions, in their life. They really faced deep brokenness within, in their own lives. And some of them, we can see certain instances like Jacob. Joseph. Joseph went through a very, very hard life, poor thing, and that life wasn't even his fault. He went through life because he was favored, right? And we have Job. Job, his faithfulness was tested by God because he was faithful. And the things that happened to him, he really went through a very, very low moment in his life. And we have David. David, my favorite. And that's why I named my son David. His second name is David, because he he faced a lot of brokenness. And if you don't know, when we read his songs in Psalms, there's so many expression of how he actually felt, how lonely, how broken, how scared. So people in the Bible were broken. The heroes in the Bible that we know, the people that we gain inspiration from, some of us we learn from, they had things in their lives that really brought them into this state of brokenness. So what I think is this. So what I want to talk about today is this. So what I want to talk about is this. And another thing is, in the Bible, there are two categories of brokenness, right? One is someone who is innocent, someone who goes through a situation that crushes them or breaks them because of someone else doing in their life. Like Joseph, right? He did nothing wrong to be treated the way that he was treated. He did nothing wrong to be he didn't deserve to be sold as a slave. He didn't deserve to be put in prison. He didn't deserve to be accused. And on the other hand, we have someone like David who did something really bad. He did something really bad that resulted in a big resulted him being broken in a different way because of his mistakes. So what I'm trying to say is this: our brokenness of feelings, of how we feel, actually contributes, to our emotional state. Yeah, they actually contribute to our emotional state, especially in areas of our lives where we have a particular journey or to accomplish an objective that God requires us to do. Do you understand? Yeah, Stephen, you're right. I really cannot see them. Yeah. So in all honesty, what I was saying. In all honesty, we have, we do go through an emotional state in our life, and it often happens in times where we have to, accomplish an objective that God requires us to do. Like, for example, a role that we have. I as a father, and that is like God's objective in my life. I need to be a father to my children, right? Sometimes it breaks me walking that path, trying to love them, or even, and you guys know on Saturday, and I went on like how hurtful it is to be when I minister and when I reach out to people. Now that path is also broken for me because it is really hard to continue walking, even though I feel really, really broken. So that's what I mean by being broken but whole. I mean, being broken. So what does being broken but whole means? It simply means that our issues or brokenness is not and will not be a barrier that would stop us in order for us to accomplish God's purpose in our lives. It means, what I'm trying to say is simply this: it doesn't matter how broken we are. What it can become is this, that in our brokenness, God can be made whole. I mean, God's strength can be made whole in our brokenness. So that's what Paul, I believe, was talking about. If I'm weak, then I'm strong. So when we are broken and when we are weak, it is an opportunity for God to come and strengthen us so that we can walk our path with His strength. So today I just want to talk quickly about 3 areas in our lives that we can be completely broken and be made whole. So there are 3 areas. So the first point I want to talk about is this: broken but whole in our purpose, as I was saying, right? In Matthew chapter 26, verse 39. He went on a little further and bowed with his face to the ground, praying, "My Father, if it's possible, let this cup of suffering be taken away from me. Yet I want your will to be done, not mine." So this is Jesus's, we know, his ultimate purpose, that he came to this world was for this reason. Although Jesus, he did so many things on during his time on earth, he came to earth only for one reason, and we all know that. That reason was to die for us. That reason was to be a lamb, to take all our sins and to be sacrificed on the cross so that we can have everlasting life with him. And that's the main reason why he had to leave heaven and come down to go through this whole situation. And this whole thing happened this whole thing happened at the very moment where he was about to commence his journey to the cross. At the garden, he was praying, and he had a great life, I think, on earth. Like, he did things, he showed people miracles, he showed people things that people who were living at that age had never seen before during the time of Jesus. And this, at that point where he was about to commence to start and to complete the very assignment that he was given, the very assignment that he came to earth for, to complete that assignment, at that moment before he even started, he was so broken. He said, I don't want to do this, Lord. Let not my will, if it's possible, just take this cup away from me, let me not go through this. That is Jesus being broken before he commenced his journey to be crucified. And the truth is this, I think when it comes to purpose, sometimes we don't need to be, what I'm trying to say is this: when it comes to purpose, we don't need to be okay to carry his will. I think this is what is a proof of what Jesus did. And we don't need to be self-confident to carry his will. We don't need to have a high self-esteem to carry his will. And honestly, I don't need to be emotionally happy to carry his will and to walk that path. Because the truth is, it doesn't matter. Because it really doesn't matter. And sometimes I feel that when we try to be, and when I say that we, I'm saying me, because I've tried this before. I've tried to be self-confident. I've tried to be all about myself. But the moments that I see God's work so powerful in things that have happened in my life are the moments where I was absolutely crushed and broken and not wanting to do the things. Like, you guys remember last week, on Saturday, I shared about how discouraging it is as a missionary, how it is hard to love people and to be rejected and to be judged. And and those things really, really affects your ability to be consistent. It really is. And especially when people are not receptive towards you, for you to be consistent, for you to go, it is a very, very big challenge. And there were so many times I remember that I did not want to do what I wanted to do. There were times when people wanted to meet me and talk to me. I did not want to go and see them. There were times where I would have to do meetings. I did not want to do the meetings because I just don't have it in me, and I just feel like I don't have it in me. But the thing is, all those times where I had the most powerful encounters or experiences within my time as a missionary in Bali are those moments where I never wanted to do it. And in those moments, I would see like a different interaction that people would have with God. In normality, it doesn't happen. I still remember once that there was one meeting. I remember one Sunday I was just so done. I never, sometimes when I try to worship, I would try to do things, but that day I just didn't feel like doing anything. I just wanted to go through the songs, I wanted to go through the message, and I just wanted to end the service, There are times where I felt like that, and there was one time I just did that. I just came, I said a very simple prayer. I was so tired physically and mentally drained, and I just say a simple prayer. I just started singing the song, and weirdly it was that day when I opened my eyes for the first time, people were crying and feeling the presence of God in my meeting. So this is sometimes I believe that all it takes for us to be broken, and it takes for us to acknowledge that we are weak. And if we do that, I believe that He becomes strong in our lives. And that is when I believe that the power of His strength will always manifest in our life. And I believe that Jesus walked to the cross, was able to walk to the cross, was able to finish what He came from, because the strength was from God, not His flesh. I mean, He is technically God, but and I also believe in the same way that, if we we acknowledge our brokenness, God's strength will take us through our purpose in our life. So that's the first point. The second point is broken but whole in our mistakes. Now, I want to talk about David now. In 2 Samuel verse 12, 22 to 23, David replied, I fasted, I wept while the child was alive, for I said, perhaps the Lord will be gracious to me and let the child live. But why should I fast when he's dead? Can I bring him back? I will go to him one day, but he cannot return to me. So this is the incident that we all know what happened. It was the aftermath of David's illicit relationship with Bathsheba, I think, with Bathsheba. And that moment, David committed like David committed like two big sins, right? We know he schemed and lusted after a woman that led him to have an illicit relationship with that woman. That was the first thing he did. And because of that, that woman got pregnant. And after she got pregnant, David schemed and tried to, kill her husband after knowing that it would really become worse, right? And today I really felt a different feeling when I read this thing. How I felt was this, because what David did was really bad. Like, I love David so much. Right? I love David, but today I realized what he did was really cruel. Like, I never realized the weight of what he actually did, because he peeped on somebody's wife and had a relationship with her. That I understand, but this man, I forgot his name, Bathsheba's husband, but that man was so loyal to the nation. He was such a good soldier. You understand? He was, because his country was at war, or because his army was at war, he did not even go to his home and sleep with his wife. That was how much his allegiance was to the king and the nation. And that man David plotted to get him killed. And it's really messed up. And this is a big mistake, right? A very big mistake. He was punished, and he was, things happened, and so many things happened. But the thing is this, the moment it was done, after that, what happened was the child, we know the child didn't make it. The child was dead. So this is what is happening in this passage. And the moment that it was done, the moment that the child was dead, David immediately got up and started his life again. He went back, he showered and put on new clothes and went to eat some burger and fries, I don't know. But what happens is this, and look at this verse, okay? Look at this verse. Within these verses, right, it shows us like three feelings that he was actually feeling. Firstly, he was feeling pain. David was fasting and weeping. He was just really, really hopeful and, feeling that pain that he wants that child to live and not die. So that was one thing. The second thing he was feeling was a little bit of disappointment, as he says, because if God was gracious to me, he would have let the child live. But in the end, it didn't happen. And the third thing was, he had strength in the end. He said, you know what, the child is dead. Even if I die, it's okay, one day I'll go to him, but he cannot return to me. And honestly, this was one of the lowest moments that David had in his life, And the thing is, even though he committed a big sin, even though he did a very, very big mistake, at the end of it, he became whole, even though he was broken because of his own mistakes. And many times, I get into trouble with a lot of people when I share this perspective with people, but I'm not advocating sin, right? I'm not saying that we can go and sin freely and God is going to make us whole every time we're going to make mistakes. Or rather, I'm not also like advocating repetitive nature of mistakes. I'm not saying we can go and make all the mistakes and God will love us and forgive us. I'm not saying that. But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is this. The problem is when we become broken because of our mistakes. I don't think it is God's. I don't think God wants us to stay there broken. That's what I'm trying to say. I think that even in that circumstances where we screwed up, I believe that in those circumstances, what I'm trying to say is in those circumstances, His grace is always, always there for us to strengthen us. And I don't, and especially, especially when we screw things up. Because honestly, one thing I have done in my life is screw up many times. There's so many things that I've done in my life, and I can attest to this, and I can really say that His grace is always, always there, and it helps us move on. It helps us get up and continue with life, and that's what I want to say. Yep. So even though we are broken in our weakness, even though we are the ones who lead ourselves into those brokenness, He will still make us strong because that's how great His grace is. Then the last point I want to share is broken but whole in our, in our trials. In our trials, in our unfairness, actually. It's more towards our unfairness. So we read this story, we know this story, when Joseph arrived, his brothers ripped off the most beautiful robe he was wearing. Then they grabbed him and threw him into the cistern. Now the cistern was empty, there was no water in it. And just as they were sitting down to eat, they looked up and saw a caravan of camels in the distance coming towards them. It was a group of Ishmaelite traders taking a load of gum, balm, and aromatic resin from Gilead down to Egypt. And Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain by killing our brother? We have to cover up the crime. Instead of hurting him, let's sell him to those Ishmaelite traders. After all, he's our brother, our own flesh and blood." And his brother agreed. So, and this is like another messed up situation, because unlike King David, and this Joseph did nothing wrong. I really, really pity him. He was not. He doesn't deserve to be treated that way at all, because he did nothing wrong. The only reason that his brothers hated him was because he had more favor with his father than everybody else. The only reason that they disliked him because his father loved him above everybody else, and they became jealous. And I still remember that what really pissed the brothers off was this. I remember he had like a vision, and he was interpreting that dream. I think he was interpreting that dream, which kind of said that he would be greater than the brothers, right? And the thing is, the brothers got so mad at him, but I don't think Joseph's intention was to go and like show off to the brothers to say, you guys are going to bow to me one day out of pride. I think I understand how he might have felt, because when God gives you a dream that or a word that gives you hope in your future, it is so exciting for me. And I remember when I was earlier in my days, I remember so many people like would pray for me and say I have a future in the kingdom. So many people would say that you would preach the gospel to people, you would go to nations and everything, and it was so special to me at that point, because I was so happy and I was so excited. But times when I brought that to people and share that how I feel, how happy I feel, there's so many times people would take it wrongly, and some of them would even try to humble me and say that you don't get too hot-headed or big-headed, just step down and stay where you are, and stuff like that. So I believe that was what Joseph was trying to do. He was just very excited about the dream he had, and his brothers just hated him. And they thought that he was trying to rub them off in the wrong way. They thought that he's trying to show off to them, that he's going to be greater to them. And after that, even after he was sold into slavery, even after that, he still went on a challenging life. After that, he was he was accused of trying to be funny with Potiphar's wife and everything, and went back to prison again, and his life is a mess. But the thing is, even though he was going through so much in life, and even though he was so broken, he was still strong, because many times during his trials or during those moments that Joseph was going through, and it always stayed that the Lord was with him. The Lord was with him. And I really wish that I can go to heaven one day, if I can meet him and ask him how he would have felt, because the Bible never really talks about his emotions so much during the period that he was going through it, but I think it shows his pain at the end when he saw his brothers coming to collect the ration and everything. But the thing is, he would have been really hurt throughout that whole journey. I mean, who wouldn't have? But even though he was so broken throughout his unfairness, he was still made whole by God, and he still had the strength to go and walk through the most difficult phase in his life. Not just one, many difficult phases in his life. Then I say, even though we become completely broken because of someone else's unfairness, because the most painful form of brokenness is because of someone else's unfairness. I mean, if I do something wrong, I still can own up to it, and I still can accept the fact that I did this situation. It was my doing. But if I become a product of someone else's mistakes, it has a lot more pain to it, a lot more vengeance and a lot more hurt. And what I want to just end off today by saying this, even though someone else is unfair in your life, the only thing that we need is God's love at that point. And I believe that His love and comfort always makes us whole. And yeah, so this is what I want to end off by saying. We saw 3 points: broken but whole. 3 areas where we are broken but whole. Firstly, we are broken but whole in our purpose, even though we do not have it in us to carry on or walk the objectives that God wants us to walk. Even though we feel broken, He would make us whole in those. He can make us whole in those situations. The second thing I want to share is broken but whole in our mistakes. Sometimes when we commit mistakes, we always reach this place of brokenness because of our stupidity and ignorance. Even in that times, God's grace is always there with us, and He will still make us whole. And the last point I want to share is broken but whole in unfairness. There are times that we become a product of someone else's unfairness, and we become broken because of someone else's actions. Even in that point, God can still make us whole, even though we are broken. So, yep, that is what I want to share tonight. I hope it helped you all in a way. And yeah, amen.